everybody. Another round of welcome for the ones that joined us later. We just had a um, smooth entering into the realm of our summit here. And yeah, get ready because the first guest of our day here arrived. So, with so much enchantment, really, and inspiration in my heart, I'm introducing you. I'm so pleased that you accepted this invitation, and I can full-heartedly call you a visionary guest here in our summit. So, Jon Marro, Jon, also known as Vision Sower, is an author, is a filmmaker, and an award-winning artist. Vision Sower is one who is planting seeds of imagination and into what was it, into the minds and hearts and the ears and the eyes of the collective consciousness. And now he's stepping more and more into the role of facilitator and guide. And he coined a concept that I loved, and you will be introduced to. The concept is the provocumentary, a bending invitation to both witness in an informative way, but also to be deeply stirred. Wow, only that for me, it is so inspiring. Yeah, I'm looking forward, Vision Sower, to taste a little bit of the seeds of your visionary work. And thank you for being here. Welcome.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Um, I can start by, sharing that when you asked me to be a part of this, we were going back and forth and trying to decide what to gift all of the attendees with. And one of our first interactions was not one of our first collaborations was the opening, which is the film I'm going to be showing here today. And yeah, it is a provocumentary. It was based on, or was inspired by the pandemic. And with so many things going on politically and virally, environmentally, I felt this cosmic question. I felt this cosmic invitation that was happening. It felt very much anything that could sort of disrupt the economy and disrupt business as usual was definitely getting my attention. And I, the only thing I could compare it to was like a collective, felt like maybe a collective medicine ceremony or a collective grief ritual. And so I just followed a vision fully through and made this little film. Did you wanna do any back and forth at all right now just to chat about anything, or should I go ahead and go right into it and then we can do a Q&A afterwards?
Yeah, I think you can just take the floor and do your artistry. Not feeling like going back and forth.
Great. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, anything, let's see, a little more about me. I've been in my middle world life, I was a creative director and an artist and doing designs a lot for, um, bands, musicians, entertainers, for a long time. And then more slowly as I've gotten into this soul-centric work, the muses and soul has asked me to create what I would call, yeah, um, deep cinematic storytelling questions that hopefully sit in the soul, stir in the soul, and that can never be answered, or at least answered easily, without wrestling, without being changed, and there's no sort of perfect box that they fit in. So I'm going to be sharing a film. So sit back and relax. You can watch it however you want, and then we're going to do some Q&As afterwards. So as you're watching, I would say, think about maybe perhaps where there's been an opening in your life, when you've had a life-changing moment. Maybe it was a call, maybe it was a dream, maybe it was an encounter with soul or spirit or a being on the earth, that you were changed, forever changed by. And then we'll bring that into the conversation afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead and share this and just um, make sure that we have it all set up. Share sound, optimize for video. Great. All right, here we go. This is the opening. And I'm going to just share the first part of it.
Everybody remembered that day differently. When it first appeared, most people froze. Many people fled, but others began to follow it. I'm telling you this tale, but it's not just mine to tell. It's part of something much, much bigger. Chapter 1. A whole new world.
It happened before it happened, even before it actually was visible to the eye. Many of us sensed that there was literally a tear in the fabric of reality.
I lived in Brooklyn, and I lived in a little apartment.
When it happened, I was in Buenos Aires.
I was in a cab with one of my dearest friends.
I was in my very little small house in Romania.
I was in a shoe store buying a pair of black Adidas.
I know exactly where I was. I was in bed.
I just remember thinking, oh, this is what I've been preparing for.
I could actually feel the earth splitting below my feet. It was, for me, the most important day of my life.
So I'm out in the garden, and I just have this feeling that comes over me of excitement and dread all at once. I feel it before I see it.
Then the cab stopped and everything stopped, but people started hopping out of their cars. And yeah, we were in a different world.
It felt like in that moment, all the boundaries dissolved.
You just know there will be before and after this. You just don't know much beyond that.
If you see it coming at you, if you see it chasing you, if you see it waiting for you, if you see it at all, you are blessed.
Fear, hope, longing, confusion, a real sense of being lost.
There was just this feeling of like, oh, it's over.
You know, it radically transformed my life. I still feel like I'm completely scarred from the experience.
And I began to see things that were invisible to some eyes, but not to mine.
I had been wandering for years, looking for home, looking for purpose, looking for some truth that would last. I took odd jobs in odd towns just to get by. I was on the Golden Gate Bridge. The top was down. The sky was blue. The sun was warm on my face. That's when I saw it. And that's when it saw me.
Sources from around the globe are reporting on what appears to be a giant hole in the sky. At the moment, there is no cause for concern.
In the days and nights leading up to it, you could sense the tension mounting. There was blood in the streets, bodies in the ocean. Everything was on fire. Something was trying to be born, but something was still not ready. It felt as if the fabric of the universe was tearing apart. We just couldn't see it, until suddenly, we could.
The night before it happened, a friend of mine had come over, and I said,
you know, it's really quiet. Something is really eerie about tonight. And I said, it feels like something's about to happen.
I never really thought that a clear blue sky would feel apocalyptic.
Not everyone necessarily could understand what they were witnessing.
For most of my life, I had been hoping that everybody would, quote, wake up. And I'd kind of given up on that actually ever happening.
It's being called the opening. Experts have not yet determined its origin or why it has appeared.
The strange duct taping together of the mundane and the cataclysmic all on this one morning.
It was a combination of shock and anger and sadness, and I felt confused. And that confusion led me to begin to ask questions.
So you can say it was an alternate reality and it seemed unreal. This seemed so unreal, but actually what it seemed was very, very real.
A kind of an instant terror that brought sparkles of pleasure.
What I remember most specifically about that day is pulling up into our driveway when we got home and feeling this overwhelming grief.
I felt naked. I felt broken into pieces. Like I felt like I didn't know where I was.
Yeah, so it's just this feeling of like, this is urgent and we need to find the people that we love like right away.
But what I really remember about it is the sense of relief. Like, I feel like there were people that may have never before wanted to, or actually went outside and knelt down on the ground and wept in gratitude.
Suddenly, I had more relationships to tend to, not just human.
The world as we understand it or understood it is collapsing before our eyes.
All of a sudden, the rest of the world has tuned in. Some veil has been lifted.
Literally nobody knows what it is. And here's the paradox. Everybody knows what it is.
Experts are still reeling about what they call the opening. And scientists are concerned it could alter everything from ocean tides to photosynthesis. Here I was worried about the evening traffic.
It stretched over hillsides and pulsed above cities. The sheer scale of what it was and what it might mean was more than anyone could hold.
We're facing something beyond our ability to respond to.
I was really, really acutely aware as I looked around just how unmoored people were, like how much of a shattering was taking place.
It's interesting because it's so different from what I thought the feeling would be. You know, I've always been like, I'm ready for something outrageous to happen. And when it does, we're all gonna flood the streets with change, or I don't know. But what actually happened was everyone was really afraid.
So it was no surprise when people came unhinged in their homes, or that panic, fear, and hysteria swept through the streets. It broke us, all of us, wide open.
That kind of worldview shift is terrifying. And it's also something that we all, on some deeper level, long for.
I wanted everything to stop. I didn't want anything to continue. I didn't want to hear any sound. I didn't want to see anybody's face. I didn't want to even take another breath, because it felt like everything had come to an end.
Our culture had long evaded its arrival, hoping things would change without us having to. Everyone across the globe could see it, but not all were touched by its otherworldly light. Some people were made whole by it, others were made mad. And you didn't know who was who among your family, your friends, or even in the mirror.
The opening has torn down a lot of these rigidified systems of understanding that, in a sense, kept people sane. Really, though, it's not that it kept them sane. In a way, you could say that it kept them insane, because it kept them immersed in a certain delusion.
Once there is a rip in one reality we can see through,
into another level that's still real. It's that sense of becoming aware of something else that you'd never considered, that then you have to remodel your view of reality to include.
Some people are looking backwards from the threshold, trying to get back to the world that was. Many are just in confusion in the middle, and others are trying to look forward to the world that's trying to come into view or into vision.
Well, we've been living kind of in the fantasy or the fiction of isolation and separateness. So what happens when this type of experience settles on us is that those fictions begin to fade and dissolve, and we begin to sense that we are actually entangled with the whole terrain, the whole mess of it all, and the whole beauty of it all.
The opening acted like a prism, reflecting our light and our shadows back to us. Its colorful cosmic rays poured into our world, affecting everyone it touched differently, thrusting them into what could only be described as visions.
We have reports that after staring into the opening, people are hearing and seeing things not of this world.
So first of all, I just want to share that I don't believe that what I saw was just for me.
I saw way too many visions. Let's say that. For a long time, visions would come. I would eat visions for breakfast.
I just looked up into the opening, and it was like I got sucked into this vortex of absolute bliss and love.
I can still feel it in my body. It hasn't left me.
To stare into the heart of that is to stare into death.
It felt almost as if scales were being pulled off of me.
And all of a sudden, like, it exploded into oneness, into pure consciousness, into something I'd previously not experienced before.
It was so beautiful. And it was devastating when it was time to come back to this world.
You find new things when you enter it, but just do some enter it at all, I wonder.
The opening split the sky in two and tore humanity in half. Those who had seen things quickly became outcasts, labeled as unstable, disturbed, or even dangerous by those still stuck in a story of separation.
It has made me ostracized. It has made me lose friends. It has made me question my own freaking sanity.
No one came back the same after an encounter, but everyone came back to Earth. There was no escaping the burden or the blessing of being human.
Trying to consolidate, distill that kind of experience back in this place is something else.
So if you receive a vision, it's not something to ignore. You can't say, I wasn't expecting that one. I think not. It's a commitment.
Science could not explain it. Government could not control it. No algorithm could predict it. But that didn't stop them from trying. Everyone had to choose where to get their information, from the screen or from the sky. As a war between what we saw and what we were shown battled for our attention.
So as soon as the opening appeared, what's the first thing people do? They look to somebody else to explain what it is.
The number of narratives that are flying about what this is and how we might be in relationship with it is as varied as there are, human psyches walking the earth. But the media is going to tell us how and why we should be afraid.
You saw the propaganda machine really working, right? You really did. And then every once in a while, we'll get these hidden mystics that will come out and speak for themselves.
There were lots of heated conversations about what do we do next? What do we do next? What do we do next? To the point that we barely even let ourselves get a breath and actually simply feel the impact before the larger narratives took over.
Authorities are now calling it a collective psychosis and warning that the light from the opening could in fact alter brainwaves and cause mass hallucination.
We were looking to one
branch of humanity's view of how things were supposed to be conducted, created, aligned. And everybody was supposed to go along with it. And that was part of where the blindness came.
Many looked to others for what to do and how to be, yet some bravely trusted their own intuition.
It happens through church leadership. It happens through governmental leadership. It happens, now on the internet, you just see different thinkers who are able to gather these flocks of people who are like, I feel lost and I don't feel power. And you're going to tell me something that makes me feel powerful, right? Without making me grow in any way, without making me contend with myself.
What gets in our way is the human. What gets in our way is this imperial order that says everything outside of the rational, everything outside of your way of thinking is the enemy.
I think there's been a systematic conditioning of people to not trust themselves. And the real message is that all of us need to hone the skills of our own perception.
The spell, the hypnosis, the brainwashing that we've fallen under, and no one else has done that to us. Yeah, there's all the propaganda organs to the mainstream media, for example, but we actually are colluding. We're complicit in our falling asleep.
Some people are just going to keep turning away from it. I don't see it. I got my favorite news channel. I'm watching this over here. I'm not looking at the black hole. Don't tell me about it. And then some of us are going to go and say, wait a minute. Light comes from darkness. What happens if we look into the dark to get the new vision?
You really got back to your own discernment. There were so many things going on that you kind of just had to go with your own gut feeling. Even if you tried to rely on the experts, how could you? They were all over the board. So in a way, it's forcing us back into this seat of ourselves, of saying, what do I know and where do I know it from?
We'd all been well groomed for what to expect, but no one was prepared for what came next. Our buzzing, industrious, extractive world was mortally wounded by a gash in the sky.
I think of what we're going through as a collective rite of passage.
Every true initiation has three qualities to it. The first one is that there's a radical separation from the world you once knew. That has certainly happened. We're no longer in that agreed upon flux of business as usual. The second thing is there's a radical alteration in our sense of identity. Who I am, the story I've been told and have been living begins to crack and deteriorate. And the third thing that happens, if we're fortunate, is that you can never go back to the world that was.
People began to gather like fugitives far away from the factory floors, to dance, to grieve, to share what they had seen.
To discover that there were people who had had experiences like I had, and that sense of recognition kind of washed over me. And I remember thinking like, I'm not alone and I'm not crazy.
I wanted so badly to step off the wheel, but had no idea who I was outside the marketplace. The clouds looked brighter, the birds sang louder, even the air was alive. Life, once again, was mysterious. It's one thing to have a vision. It's another thing to follow it.
The times are urgent, let us slow down. The times are urgent, let us slow down. The times are urgent, let us slow down. I think there's a difference between a pause and what I would call Selah. It's called Selah, S-E-L-A-H. No one actually knows what it means. I feel that it's the place where things get strange. It's a place where we are met by something greater than ourselves. Not just a place where we pause so that we can resume those things later on. A Selah is not just a resumption of convenient continuity. You don't just resume after a Selah. And why is that? It makes it impossible for us to resume things because we are rendered incapable of doing that. You feel the light, the colors that is streaming out of these rifts, this crack, this cavernous yawn. I feel that the things streaming out are not just visual, spectral things, and that if you stand in the light of this, you are tattooed with something. It is inviting us to reconsider what it means to be human, what our activisms do, what they risk, what our ways of working enact, what we've been leaving out and what we've been forgetting. It's like rumors of another world are now streaming through this opening. It seems we're at a loss, with what to do. We don't know how to respond to this crisis. I feel that sometimes the way we respond to crisis is part of the crisis. That the way we try to weave a solution, construct a response to crisis, becomes the problem itself. It's grieving. It's the questions we're now asking. It's the humility we're now feeling. It's the perhaps that now haunts our speech. Whether it closes quickly or not, we've been forever changed by this. And I feel that there's an invitation there. And that invitation is saying, work with me. You can work with me. Use the materials of this to craft sanctuary, to craft new questions, to craft celebrations, to craft ceremonial inquiries, collective ways of thinking together. Use it to craft a space of silence. Craft a cartography, a project here that allows you to fall. It allows you to stray away from calculated paths. In working with these materials, maybe, just maybe, the opening will always be with you. And it will never close.
Thank you for watching. You might have seen some faces you recognize in that film, maybe some hosts here or some people you've followed, some guides along the way. Yeah, it was really great I haven't watched it in a while. It was really great to see that. I think it's amazing. I'm just going to say that. That's a pretty amazing accomplishment. And I feel like I did my work, that I followed a vision all the way through. And I hope that it inspires others to do the same. It's something that one of the things Bill Plotkin said that really stuck with me was that on any journey of soul initiation, you must be initiated by your own medicine. And I think to sort of give your heart to something fully and follow it through, to be all in wholeheartedly, there's no way you can't meet the mystery in some way. So thank you for watching. I have some questions, and I'm also just available for questions. If people want to put questions in the chat, if they want to, I'll let Sandra here take it and put any questions. I'm totally open for this being a Q&A, both from me and from you. This is a participatory experience. But one of the things I wanted to do was give you some journaling prompts to sit with, and you can either come back, you can either look at these now or come back later. But I wanted to take some time to have you pause and reflect. Let me pull up some of these. But do we want to do any questions first? Can we do that? Is there a way to do that just to see? I feel like I just gave people this thing, and then I'd rather have it be, that was my call. I would love to see the response.
Yes, the chat is open for questions for if anybody has a stirring curiosity or anything to share about the opening.
Now's the time. I'm here, live online. All right. How are the interviews made? Can we watch the movie again on some platform? Yes, yes. Okay, great. So the interviews were made. I reached out to them. They were all done on Zoom, and they were, when the pandemic happened, these were voices that helped make sense of it for me. I was listening to them, listening to these people, or had read their books, or they were real people in my life, and they were living from a soulful place that uh, allowed me not to make sense of all that was disrupting. And so I reached out via email, or maybe I had someone who knew someone, and most of the people said yes. Most of the people I asked said yes, which was a delight. And I was definitely nervous. And how what I prompted it was, I gave them the premise of the Provocumentary, of there's this opening, and to ask them what they saw when they stared into it, and maybe that opening for them was, yeah, a delineating moment in their life, a moment of death, a big dream that came through, a psychedelic experience, something that actually radically changed them. Because I know in the past, in different indigenous cultures, visions and dreams were honored. They were actually ways to guide culture. And I think that's something that, as I begin to apprentice under what it means to be a vision sower, is to follow the vision that it is a transmission, almost telepathic from the imaginal realm, with instructions to how to live. And I'm doing my best to listen and respond. So I asked people, I kind of gathered other people's visions and then put them all together. Can we watch the movie again on some platform? Absolutely. Maybe we'll do a follow-up and show where that is. Is that the best way to do that? I can put it in the chat now, but I think that might be the greatest way, is we'll do a follow-up and we can get that information to you. But yes, it's online, it's on Vimeo, it's on YouTube. You can find it. What a beautiful movie. Thank you for sharing. You are welcome. Went straight to my heart. The whole seems to represent the new awakening around the world, soul-centric living. Please expand. Yeah, I think it's a portal into the unknown. I think it can mean many different things. I think it's a metaphor. I think that there are openings anytime we give our full attention to anything. A moment with a ladybug, an intimate moment with a lover or a child, eating breakfast, certainly looking up and contemplating the stars. Another mentor of mine, Richard Rohr, he has this little book called Just This, and this was one of my favorite lines. A lot of people come to him after they've maybe believed in a certain Christianity or religion, and that somehow fell apart. And he said, just start with a pebble. Take a pebble in your hand. And if you can look down at that pebble and ask how you got here and how that pebble got here, and wonder how you were able to somehow look at that pebble and use your body to reach up. But if that doesn't blow your mind, you're not going to find a God in a temple or in a book. So just be with just this. And I think those are moments of openings. And those are things that I'm really, as a steward of life and a student of life, trying to create more of, and also gather as many of those moments as I can in my life. So soul-centric living, I think those openings are a constant ongoing invitation to meet soul, meet mystery, meet consciousness, meet this miracle that we're living in. And I think there's those openings, and I think there are also, I don't want to call them closings, but also, Aldous Huxley has that book called The Doors of Perception, right? There is something that closes it as well. It could be our own everyday thinking. It could be just what we're capable of, perceptions. This is a fun little fact that I like, that snails or slugs, when they're crawling along, if you were to walk by them quicker than 3 seconds, they won't notice. So basically, one of our moments of perception is like 3 seconds to their perception. So if you walk by quicker than 3 seconds, it's as if it didn't happen to them. And so I'm wondering, like, what's happening in between the moments of our perception? Is that where the angels live, the muses, the ancestors? There's probably so many things beyond our veils of perception. These are just things I like to nerd out and delight in asking these questions and try to live and try to make art that asks questions like that. Are we allowed to screen it for educational purposes? Yes. Subtitle it, share it. I'm happy to do. I want to be living this. I want to make more of these. Please, feel free to get in touch with me. I've done many online screenings, and it delights me every time. I want people to see this as much as possible, and I also need to find new audiences. And this was a great way. This was a great way to reach out beyond the people I have. I believe that in the end, we didn't play the end credit song, but the end credit song is a beautiful testimony too. It's called "We Are All Connected," and I know, I know and feel that we're all connected way beyond what we pretend. That the media, that when we look outside, it can seem like there's so many different divisive things, but we have so much in common. And I would love to find as many people as possible to plant these visions into their imaginations. Do you want us to tell about your own opening? Great question. Yeah, I've had many things. September 11th, when that happened, 9/11, I had just got out of college at that point. And I remember being all, like 3 months after I had graduated, I'd spent the summer, and like I moved to Boston, Massachusetts, and I was all ready to go live like the real world, into the real world and get a job. And I thought, as an artist, I'd be getting a job at an advertising firm or a design firm at the time. And then I remember watching that morning, seeing the towers hit the plane and the news coverage. And I remember it was as if my eyes were seeing one thing, but my soul was seeing something else. Like it was like my third eye kind of got bludgeoned awake, and I was seeing different things. And I started channeling this film, the cinematic story. And the opening is part of my first like rudimentary attempt to begin to gather that. But I just had a moment of, oh, the world, the real world, business as usual. There's so much more going on behind it, and not everything is what it seems. And there are so many things, whether that's evil, whether that's violence. I made a kind of a vow to myself to make art, I don't want to say in opposition to whatever that was, but I wanted to make art that showed there could be another way of living, that there's another, that there is an otherwise. So that was a really profound moment for me. I've had other incredible ones. COVID, the pandemic seemed to, when there was just a moment where it felt like when everybody was sheltering in place, that there was this 2 or 3 day moment of what's going to happen, what's going to happen next. Like it felt so pregnant with possibility, and that is what inspired me to make this. Yes, that was also my question. What did you tell them that the speeches felt so authentic at the end, and also a line as if one of those people really experienced the same? Yeah, I asked them. When I interviewed people, to think about, depending on how old they were. Maybe this was the JFK assassination. Maybe it was 9/11. Maybe it was a moment you got a call that a loved one passed. But I asked them to think about a moment in their life when they had it. Some people really got it. Some people could actually riff and pretend that the opening was there. I've asked, that's what I said. It's like, I want you to imagine that the opening is actually right outside your window. Now, obviously, there's some people who may not want to play with imagination that way. They want to be more, well, that's not really the truth. And I understand that. So I would ask ways, and then I was able to like edit this in a way to create this visionary speculative fiction piece. It's more of a mythological, mythopoetic question. A friend of mine dubbed this term cinematic ceremony, and that's what it feels like, cinematic ceremony. From where were they extracted the fragments where Charles Essen and Michael Mead speak, for example? Those are interviews. I actually interviewed them. Those are my own interviews that I reached out, and they gave me the interview. I haven't yet. I've thought about it, but I haven't yet put those interviews up online. But I probably will at some point. Just here's everybody's full interviews. They're interesting. They're they're way more exciting in the film, I'll tell you, than not. Like that was part of what I had to do, is really go through all the interviews, all the footage, and like really listen for the juiciest answer. And I have to tell you, one of the hardest things about editing is so many. I mean, this could have been a 3-hour film. Like so many. I'm someone who loves podcasts and I love long form, and people had just, beautiful long-winded answers, and I had to like cut it all down to like give the pieces, and then also weave it in a way where it sort of worked as a long narrative. I mean, it took me 3 years. This took me 3 years to make. It was really a labor of love. Thank you, wonderful. It'll be great to see them in entirety. Happy to. I'll take that as a prompt to put them up. So thank you for the encouragement. So yeah, those are I love getting to answer those questions, and now I'm happy to ask you some questions on your own that you can feel free to journal with. Okay, so I'm going to give you some questions to ponder for yourself. Feel free, if you have a journal now, to get them out, or just think about, contemplate as we will. This first question I'm going to call the threshold question. So the first question is, when have you felt something in your life opening? A rupture, an initiation, a moment where the world revealed itself in a new way? And yeah, maybe just sit with that for a second. But yeah, when have you felt an opening in your life? A moment where the world revealed itself in a new way. Maybe you got a glimpse of something beyond your day-to-day life. We had a moment of like, wow, this is quite miraculous. This existence thing is pretty special. And sometimes those openings are invitations to step into a new way of living, maybe being more brave, more courageous, more taking a risk that you'll never be able to walk back the same again. And so, can you think of moments? Did you actually step through, or did you turn away? And maybe there's different moments of each. Maybe there's moments where you did step through. Maybe there's moments where you weren't quite ready and you declined. And so look at those moments in your life where you said yes fully, and when you gave a no, maybe a no, not quite yet, maybe later, and see if even beyond that, if there were any moments in your life where you said no at first, and then the universe or mystery later on down the line provided another chance to say yes. Okay, the next question, and I'll make sure we put these questions on for those who want to, see them written out. We can put those on along with the link for where the film is. This is the crisis and invitation question. So the world is full of ruptures. There's climate collapse, there's cultural fragmentation, there's systems breaking down. What if these crises are not just endings, but initiations? What might they be inviting us into? They're here. All of this is here. And it's so hard to square our shoulders and look at it, but it's not going away. And I'm someone who believes that our soul, or the mystery, or whatever the many named words for it, have given us each a seed, a seed to perhaps make an offering to those provocations, to those initiations. And so what might they be inviting us into? When I step into, or begin to look at what I've heard called the polycrisis, it can be so overwhelming at times. I know I need community. I know I need good art. I know I need music and dance and nature. And I also know I need to do something. And that's why I really love that this is called Actions for Change. It's not mindfulness for change or sitting and looking and contemplating for things. Like those are all beautiful too. It's actions. And I really love action because I believe with action, you can co-participate in the creativity of a new world, of changing things. of transformation, and you can also be changed and shaped. So I really appreciate the action. So what are these crises? What are these crises inviting us into? And what might be your action to meet them? And next question. In myth, so this is the mythic question. In myth, those who experience visions are often cast out, feared, or ignored, yet they carry something essential for the collective. If you've looked into the opening in your own life and saw something undeniable, what was it? And what, if anything, did you do with it, knowing the world might not believe you? And so, yeah, I'll put this question here as well. This question is about being a visionary, catching a glimpse of something that might have been whispered in a dream or a vision that you just knew in the depths of you that you had to bring forth, or that you saw, or that you experienced, or as a message from beyond. And we don't have a culture that welcomes those all the time, that has a dialogue and conversation about it. And there's people, loved ones, beloved ones, inside and out, that will call you crazy, that will outcast you, that will, tell others you're insane or that you're demented. And that becomes another form of fire and initiatory process. And to live a visionary life requires bravery. So, how have you stayed true in the film? There's this line. I always know I've got a good project or a story when there's a few good lines that I can like build a whole world around. And there's this line that says, it's one thing to have a vision, it's another thing to follow it. We can have a vision and just let it live there. And maybe that's all it needs. Maybe that vision can work you for the rest of your life. And maybe that's all it needs. It is another thing to follow it, to begin to actually take it from the ethereal, take it from the imaginal, and begin to work with it in the real world. And that's just something I know I'm here to do, to work in that crucible. But it comes with consequences. I would say probably not doing anything with it also comes with consequences. This is sort of the, action versus inaction. So knowing the world might not believe you, where have you seen something, where you've been bold? It doesn't even have to be as mythic. It could just be, I have a great idea for a business, or you know what? I really want to go on this cross-country trip, or I just know in my heart I need to go speak to that person. And people might call you crazy. Where have you experienced those in your life? And thank you in advance for taking action on those little soul whispers. Okay, next question. And then we can do a little popcorn style after this to see if anybody has anything really burning they want to share. The fear and control question. So who benefits when people are too afraid to trust their own perceptions? What forces in your life, internal or external, try to convince you not to see what you already know deep down? So you could say there's a real cost in our own personal lives and certainly in culture when we've ignored the vision, when we've ignored those whispers, that business as usual is only here because we've wanted it. We keep choosing it. We've kept choosing it again and again with our actions, with our words, with our consumerism, with how we speak. I mean, there's a great book. Paul Levy, he's one of the people in the opening. He wrote a book called The Quantum Revelation. And he's not a quantum physicist, but he really understands it. So he came at it from more of a Buddhist perspective. And one of the things he says is that, to call this a mug and me, John, and this a table and that a wall, from a quantum perspective, that's insanity. you know, that we're all, we know scientifically we're all connected through molecules. But even our own language of separation, of naming things with nouns, and has a cost. And I'm wondering, part of what the opening is wondering if there's going to be a new Copernican shift, that we used to think, the sun revolved around the earth, and we used to think that we were separate. I'm wondering, when might that happen? When might a new reality take place, and what would that look like? What would that look like? How would that disrupt everything we knew? It's terrifying and exhilarating. Okay, the collective question coming right up. I know I'm going through these and you probably can't answer as thoroughly as you'd like on the call, but thank you for humoring us anyways. Collective question is, the fugitives in the opening find each other in the cracks of the system, on Zoom calls, in ceremonies, and emerging communal ways of living. Who are your people in this time of rupture? Where do you gather to make sense of what's unfolding? So maybe just do a little gratitude to yourself. Think about the people that you can rely on, who do believe in your visions. Places like Action for Change, where you can come and be heard and seen fully, where you're allowed to explore, where you're invited to actually go deeper. And then just give them blessings and praise and gratitude. Who would we be without that? I'm so grateful for all of you already, knowing that I can show a film like this. This film does not go over well in my family. People are like, okay, cool, Jon. But who are these people? Who are the fugitives in your life that are, know there's something more? And the last question here. The reckoning question. So there's no way out, only through. What do you need to release, reimagine, or risk in order to fully step into this moment in history? So this is your life, Barry Oliver, your one precious, wild life. How could you make it a little wilder? What could you give away? Like that's something that might be tethering you or anchoring you to your comfort or your, and I'm not asking you to put yourself in danger. I'm just asking you to put yourself into the wild. How could you maybe self-initiate yourself and fully step into what might be stirring in your soul? What might be calling you? How might you create or begin to interact with your own opening? Maybe that is a film, maybe that's a story, maybe that's a dance. What action can you take for change? Think about that. And then I want to leave you with this great quote. There's a book called The Great Work of Your Life by Stephen Cope, which I really, really love. It's all about Dharma. Dharma, I'm assuming most people know what that word is, but if not, Dharma is a Buddhist term for living one's vocation, one's right alignment. And he says, our job is to make choices that create the right conditions for our Dharma to flourish. The gift is indestructible. Our dharmic gifts, our soul gifts, they can't be broken. It's a seed. We're not required to play God. We're not required to create the seed, only to plant it wisely and well. So as a vision sower, I'm asking you, what visionary seeds are you planting? And I, from my heart to yours, ask you to tend to them well, water them, make sure they grow. I'm happy to do an open Q&A, even if it's between you and I, Andre, however we want to do this, but I'm open for responses to the questions. I'm open to riffing further. I don't have the opening part 2 done yet, so I can't show that, otherwise I would, but I'm happy to, yeah, just continue this conversation.
Well, I, for one, I'm delighted by your Rhapsody. Whatever you're saying is cracking my heart open and is truly inspiring. But I also feel like maybe we can give a little bit of time for these people to feel into these amazing, rich, potent questions, and maybe then for them to share, a few of them to share.
Great.
Be something of interest. What do you think?
Yeah, I could see that I had a little bit of like, is this okay? All this silence on this call, I'm here. So, but happy to, the questions are all in the chat. Feel free to journal away. Feel free to feel into them. And then also feel free to chime in and answer as well. But we'll give a little more time. The questions are all there. Feel free to journal away and answer. And maybe what I can do is I can play that beautiful song.
Exactly my idea. Yep.
Okay, great. Let me play that beautiful song at the end of the opening. Feel free, if you're done, you can actually just watch this, but this will have a little music playing in the end.
There's a hole inside my heart I just jumped into. This might be my opportunity to finally learn some truth. Life goes on beyond our horizons. There's a greater adventure we are on. And when I come untethered, the thing I remember is I'm all dialed in. Yeah, we're all connected. There is beauty in the pain of unraveling a mystery, like breaking through the cocoon. We are children of this world. We dance and we unfurl our magic and our powers, just like the flowers opening, opening, opening up, opening, opening up. Life goes on beyond these dimensions. There's a wilder adventure we are on. While I'm singing out, I'm really thinking how astounding it is that we're all dialed in. Yeah, we're all connected. We're all connected. We're all connected. isolation. It's a brighter adventure we are on. The stars are twinkling, or are they signaling that we're all dialed in? And we're all connected. We're all connected. We're all connected.
We're all connected.
Shall we be curious about possible answers to these wonderful questions? What do you think, Vision Sower?
Would love that. Would love that. Take a risk. Share what's there.
Yeah, and this kind of questions, well, the kind of answers, I'm reminding about a poem of David White. He uses the questions that have no right to go away. Well, this kind of answers have not the right to go away. This kind of answers are making and unmaking a life, and especially if you don't want to risk sharing your answer, especially you are invited to share this particular answer. So yeah, we are inviting what? Action. Vision without action. Not what we would love to have, right? So yeah, our curiosity, our open hearts are here.
Yeah, I think, well, we all come into this world through an opening, in one way or another. And certainly, life uses openings for breath, for feeding, I think I heard something that because recently fire was actually granted by scientists as a living thing because it eats, it breathes, it sort of expels, and then it dies. I think those are the things that there might be even more, but yeah, we expel through openings, we consume through openings, we breathe through openings, our eyes open and close. So something about that seems primary. Something about that seems life-giving. And we're in this, we are, life seems to be between these 2 points of, birth and death, and that life itself is an opening between those 2 portals. So yeah, I don't think there's answers as much as the question mark, and I like that maybe the punctuation, the little dot at the bottom of the question mark is an opening as well, endlessly, and there's little ellipses as well, opening, opening, opening. So yeah, I think I've seen that bumper sticker that says war is not the answer. I used to have a t-shirt company, and we had little bumper stickers too, and one was answers are not the answer. And I think that's what speaks to your comment. So thank you. Crisis and Christ kind of sound the same, and it seems that makes sense. Yeah, but I think that makes sense too. I I mean, this is a whole other thing, but I do believe I love the term Christic personally more than even Christian. There's a uh, Richard Rohr is a Franciscan, and so they really look to nature as their cosmology. But he has a podcast called Another Name for Everything, and that Christic force is what animates everything. It's the animate world, the animate principle, and I think Richard Rohr also calls it the scandal of the particular. I love that phrase, the scandal of the particular. That um, you know, Christ was born into a into a body. We've sort of seen it as a male body. We project all these things on there, and then therefore we start to uh, make associations and projections. I had an experience once where Christ came to me and could not see his face. He was like, "Do not look at my face. This is not who I am." Like everybody thinks this is who I am. This is who I am. He was pointing to his heart, and the heart was this is yeah. I'll share this experience. And the heart was this amazing, like around the heart was this roaring cosmic lion, and the lion had a mane of fire, and then out of the lion's mouth were four other leaping lions, all with manes ablaze, and uh, it was this sort of message of like, live lion-hearted, live lion-hearted, and I think even the term Christ, it's like this scandal in particular, all these words, love, peace, hope, wisdom, they get co-opted by whatever that opacity is, the God of opacity that wants to shut off the opening. And yet somehow we're here, this mystery, we're here embodied. And I think, I believe that there are, doorways, openings to learn, and there's all sorts of lineages of teachings to point us towards what might be next. I was down in the Amazon once, and they called Western civilization, they called us the orphan children, like people who were orphaned from their own story. And someone asked, well, if we're orphaned from our own story, what do we do? And they said, borrow someone else's. Find a lineage and borrow someone else's. And that, that can bring up things around cultural appropriation and all this, but they really believe that all the different lineages were just different rays on the sun of divinity. And all you had to do was like hold on to one and you could follow it all the way back home. And I love that. And I use that. Any other questions? And crisis, yeah, Christ and crisis. Yeah. I mean, think about that. Like that's one of the most, talk about mythologies. I don't think we're going to go here in this conversation, but certainly most pervading mythologies is definitely one of the most, for sure, is the Christ moment, the crucifixion moment on the cross, and probably completely between the horizontal plane, the divine plane, the infinite and the finite, and even the words spoken on the cross feel to sort of be like both, here I am in my complete, divinity, and here I am in the crisis of what's happening. Jack Kornfield, Buddhist teacher, said, as beings, we have to remember like our infinite divine soul selves and our social security numbers. This little duality, the paradox, Christ and crisis.
Okay, here's a wild question, because I
Yeah.
feel like nobody, and you still have 2 more precious minutes, so we want everything of you. What is, through your, the vision sower eyes that you have and heart, what stands between a vision and an action, between the vision and the action?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is just humility. Humility, just the willingness, I'd say humility and willingness to be. Most of the visions I have seem preposterous. They seem impossible. They seem, how could I ever do that? And I think the willingness to actually just begin to endeavor and know that it will always look different, that it actually is at some level impossible to bring that fully into form. And you have to be willing to make a mess. You have to be willing to make bad art. You have to be willing to make mistakes. You have to be willing to be failing all the time. You have to be willing to be crucified. You have to be willing to, be called out and be called a fraud and be called an imposter. You have to be willing to, make a mess and be made a mess of. So I think it's humility. But I also think that willingness, you also have to be willing to see it all the way through and give your life to something more than yourself. So that's what I would say, that combination of humility and willingness. Those are both like admission tickets to change.
Way, beauty. Thank you. Wow, thank you. Thank you for this so precious minutes time with you. You planted so well the seeds of imagination, weaved with inspiration and empowerment and action and vision. Yeah, gosh, you gathered all this constellation of seers, and you being one of them. Yeah, hearts flung open in reverence and wild love with hope, real pure hope for the world. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you for being a part of it. You were a part of it, and I saw and asked you to be a part of it just by meeting you. So yes, of course.
Yeah, thank you. Well, where can we find you? So how is that follow-up going to look like?
Sure.
I can send an email to everybody. You can send
Yeah.
me. Is
I'll
that
send you the confirmation. I'm on Instagram and I have a website. Those are sort of the two places I would say now. JonMarro.com, at Jon Marro. And then I'll send you whoops, I sent it to someone else. Let's see. So JonMarro.com and then at Jon are my Instagram handles, and then we'll send out with your sort of follow-up. I'll put the link to the opening in Vimeo, and please pass it on, share it, host a screening, whatever you want to do. You can help plant these visions in there. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate your generosity and the gift that you are, truly.
Yay, sending love to everyone. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, and thank you everyone, and thank you for participating so intimately in the creation of this space and this circle, and daring to speak up and daring to dream and daring to journal and take in as much as the heart is allowing.